Happy Thursday, everybody. As always, we are back with another edition of GC Live Fowl Balls. I am your host, intern Joe Macheca. With me, as always, is my co-host, the one, the only, Mr. Jack Veltri. Jack, how we doing this Thursday?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, man. I drove to Knoxville this morning. I've been at the hotel now for about an hour, so getting ready for some weekend baseball. And this is the last weekend of the regular season, so it's crazy how fast time's flying by this season. It's been an up and down year, but hopefully South Carolina can take care of business this weekend and move forward to Hoover. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. I mean, last weekend wasn't the weekend you would hope for if you're South Carolina baseball, and we'll be sure to break all that down. But you also have another daunting task in Tennessee this weekend, and that certainly won't be easy. Jack, like you mentioned, you're up there in Knoxville, getting ready to cover that one. So we'll break down that series and then also talk about this one. But Jack, I do want to start with this past weekend. Obviously not so fun to talk about. You get swept by Georgia at home in a series that you probably had to win to make sure that you were still hosting a regional. Now, I mean, things are not looking good for the South Carolina baseball team as they try to right the ship up there in Knoxville this weekend.
Yeah, I would say that hosting chances for a regional are all but gone. It's not impossible, right? I think if they were to sweep this weekend or take 2 or 3 against the number 1 team in the country, then and maybe play a little bit better in Hoover, then who knows what can happen, right? But I think right now you're looking at a 2 or 3 seed, and I think they have the RPI to do so. I think they're 19th in RPI, which is probably the biggest metric that voters look at when determining the regional fields and all that. But yeah, man, this past weekend was downright not good enough, inexcusable. You can't have that happen on your home turf, no less. I think we both had South Carolina winning the series against Georgia, and it literally, like, if you were to tell me on on Thursday morning before we recorded the show that South Carolina was going to get swept, they were going to go up 39 runs, they were going to just get simply outclassed, and then include that meltdown fiasco on Saturday, I wouldn't have believed you, man. I would have thought, what kind of horror story are you writing here? But that was a terrible weekend. Just straight up, it wasn't good. And, now you really do have to turn around quick. But I think the boys are ready. It seems like they have kind of gotten the reality check that they need, that, like, okay, we can't be messing around with this anymore. We got to play our best baseball. And it's really, I mean, this weekend will really be a telltale of, like, okay, how much has this team really improved since last weekend?
Yeah, and I mean, it can happen that way, right? We know that it can go both ways, right? Teams can turn it on after a rough weekend like that. This team has done it, I mean, throughout the season, right? We've seen a full 180 out of this team, and right when you're ready to give up, this team gives you a reason to buy in. So I'm not completely sold out on the idea that they're going to get swept this weekend, but I mean, it's pretty close. EXO chiming in. Anyone got any minions to sacrifice to the baseball gods? We need all the support we can get. Yeah, right now, especially, it feels like that. You are at your wits' end, Jack. I mean, I felt like, we kept saying, oh, I think we've seen this team's lows. Like we were really sure about it, like it's not going to get any lower. And then sure enough, you turn around and do that this weekend, right? Your starting pitching is kind of what, I mean, we're all the way back in terms of expectations. We're all the way back to the beginning of the season, right? We're kind of going into the season. We're like, all right, the starting pitching isn't going to be as good. Maybe they might surprise us. And then up and down throughout the year, they've surprised us in spots and then also let us down in spots as well. So it's been interesting to see, but I think right now, what you have in there, at least from the surface, from the outside looking in, what you have right now in that ball club is just, some really good relief pitching right now, but I mean, not great either. But you can't figure out a starting rotation to save the life of you. The fact that Ty Good is your number 1 starter going forward is not what you want at this point in the game. And Ty Good's great pitcher, Garrett Gainey also a great pitcher. And I think the fact that the other 2 slots are TBA is just to give Kingston some options, right? So that way he doesn't have to stick to a guy for one day in that Saturday spot. But right now, your pitching staff is in shambles, to be quite honest with you. And granted, now if anyone can turn it back around and throw something consistent together, it is this pitching staff, right? They've had really good weekends where they, come together as a whole unit and just fix things. But right, they're still trying to figure some things out. It's been up and down for them, especially as of late, just been really high. The highs have been high and the lows have been low. And so they got to figure that out. These bats, a little less concern for them to find their groove. They've done it on the road, and I think, a long road trip up there to Knoxville, I think gives them an opportunity to get the bats back on track and like start to get hot in an away series. And because you are playing for something, you are most definitely playing for something. You're playing, number one, to silence your own fans who were not happy with the result from last weekend. And again, rightfully so. And I think you should be. And that should be the main reason, because Jack, everyone out there right now is calling this team soft, calling this team not as good as they were supposed to. Oh, we're not going to host a regional. Oh, like, why did we get so excited in the first place? Just another traditional South Carolina baseball team. So obviously, I think, one, you want to shut your own fans up, and rightfully so, right? Play, for your own pride and for this team's sake, ride it out and try to put together something positive. And then also, you're also playing for the regional bid. You're playing, still for postseason baseball and for better postseason luck. And Jack, you've been in South Carolina, you followed the team for a long time. You know, the D1 or the selection committee is never too kind to South Carolina either. So, knowing what if they do host a regional, traditionally it's usually filled with really, 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 really good teams. So it's a tricky spot right now, because again, this team has by no means left no doubt, right, that they're the best team in the or like good enough to make it past their own regional. So let alone host one. So again, I think, the air is out of the building with this baseball program. They got to do something spectacular this weekend to really get them going. But that was a long-winded answer of kind of what needs to happen. Yeah, like there's a lot of work to be done, and it starts with winning back over the home fans, because they are not pleased.
Yeah, I'll try to touch on all that. Very, very, very good points all around, Joe. With the fan base, yeah, man, you can tell. Like, look, I think even as a reporter and all that, I've tried to be like as unbiased, just looking at the bigger picture as optimistically as I can. But man, last weekend, like you'd be crazy to think that was a good weekend by any stretch. Like South Carolina, that is easily one of the worst weekends I've ever seen this team play, and I've covered this team consistently since like 2020. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs. I've seen the losing seasons in 22 and stuff, and I've seen the highs of last year. But man, this fan base, they were ruthless last weekend. No one's happy with the results. I haven't seen more Fire Kingstons and this and that, and I feel like the heat has been cranked all the way up to high compared to where it was the past 2 weekends before. Because I think everything had been going well the last 2 weekends. South Carolina had been playing good baseball, winning series and all this and that, beating Kentucky, going on the road to beat Missouri, and everything seems good. Like this team's going to be on the track to host a regional, and they'll be fine. But I don't know, man. Last weekend was just downright not good enough, and I think everything that the fans were thinking before with the expectations and stuff, it's right back to where they kind of expect it. And I think the biggest thing right now is the pitching staff is in shambles, like you said, Joe. It's a disaster. Garrett Gainey, I was kind of surprised that he wasn't listed as a starter this weekend. My theory on it is that Kingston is, if South Carolina has a chance to win tonight's game, and it's like, say it's like the 2-run lead, 8th inning, you go with Gainey, I think, and I think you do that to go out and get the win, and you sacrifice his start of 5-6 innings to get the win. And I understand that. Like you need to win a game this weekend to not only just for your confidence sake, but also to solidify yourself as where you stand in the postseason. Because I think with 14 wins, it makes it a lot easier for the committee to be like, oh, South Carolina is in. They have a great RPI and stuff. Now they have enough conference wins to make sure they get into the tournament. But at the same time, if you go down that route, like I think they will tonight, then you lose out on starting Gainey potentially on Saturday or whatever, and you're potentially punting on one of these other games, and you're also expecting Eli Jones to give you a better start. And apparently, Matt Williams and Jones and Kingston have found something with Eli this week that they're tweaking, I guess. We didn't get really in detail specifics on what the deal is, but something's going to be different this weekend apparently. And I wrote a story on it, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'll wait to see what it is when it happens. I'll believe when I see it, which I totally understand. I mean, nothing has really changed the last 3 weekends, and if nothing changes this weekend, then I wonder what the change is. But I will definitely ask about that when it comes time. But if you are getting a better outing from Eli Jones, if you're getting a good start from Ty Good, and you get a good bullpen outing, it really comes down to what the offense does, right? I think if the offense continues to score like they have, it wasn't great in those final 2 games against Georgia, but at the same time, they had to come back from 10-1 deficits and stuff. And the offense did enough to win you that game on Saturday, but the bullpen blew it, and it's ridiculous. So I think South Carolina will be fine. It just depends on how the pitching does. If you have to use Gainey tonight, oh well, get the win, and then you can go out here and try to win one of these next 2. I think they're just really piecing it together. Quite honestly, I don't think Kingston really knows what he's going to do these next 2 days. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he just used Eli Jones in like a relief role too. Like, I think literally everything's on the table, and I don't agree with all of it. I don't agree with some of the pitching moves that Kingston has made all season. I think his bullpen management is a little suspect, especially this past weekend. Why would you use Connor McCreary when he was awful one day earlier and he gives up the grand slam right on schedule? There's a lot of decision making that I didn't agree with, and you just hope it's better this weekend. But we'll have to see. I mean, I think 2 or 3 would be nice this weekend. I don't think they're sweeping this Tennessee team, but I mean, this is South Carolina after all. When you least expect it, they do the unthinkable. That is who they are, and when you do have expectations for them, they seem to squander. So
that's exactly it. And like talking to people who have followed this program, been fans of this program, it's the same thing. Like, the people who've been telling me like, hey, they're gonna blow it as soon as you get your hopes up, they're gonna blow it. It's been the same way for years, and they've been telling me that since the Kentucky series, I believe, or it was even sooner. It's like they're gonna find a way to blow out this team, and statistically, it doesn't add up to previous teams. But I like this point from EXO here. Last week felt like the football loss to Clemson to me. The bottom fell out. We can hope we can get our mojo back. How are we feeling about the team mindset? Jack, you were at the pressers this week, obviously. I mean, and now I was going to ask you a similar question, like how, like, because obviously it's different from the public facing forward. But I mean, number one, like, what kind of vibe did you get from those guys? And then also too, like, what do you think it actually is? Like, do you think it's a facade for the media, or do you think like, so what's going on with the team mindset?
No, I think it's legit. I think there's a definite. They know there's a problem. I mean, they'd be crazy if they thought after that last weekend that there isn't any issue going on right now. Then they're crazy. So I spoke to Kingston hinted at the fact that he said it last Saturday that he went into the locker room and kind of asked, "Or is anyone ready to quit? Is the season over?" That sort of thing. And obviously, no one said yes to that. They all understood. And then I spoke to Jake McCoy in a Garnet Trust interview on Monday, I believe it was. And I asked him a little more in depth, like what exactly happened with all that. And he basically just explained that Kingston was angry coming into the locker room, and it was a wake up call that this team desperately needed. And I wrote a story about it this morning, a little bit more in depth on what exactly the mindset is right now. But I think they understand that stuff that happened last weekend cannot happen again. If you play like that again this weekend, we are going to be talking about another sweep. There is no doubt about it. If you think Georgia's good, just wait till you face Tennessee. Tennessee is a very well-rounded team, and we'll get more into them. They've got a pretty good pitching staff, very good lineup with I think 5 guys hitting or with a 1,000+ OPS. And I mean that's tough to beat. So I think the mindset right now is a lot better than it was a few days ago. Like, the guys have moved on from that series. They know it can't happen again. And I asked Mark, is there a heightened sense of urgency with everything going on? Like, you guys need to get back on track. You could, win another game or 2 this weekend to solidify your postseason hopes. Is the urgency heightened? And he said, if you have to, bump up the sense of urgency, then you're doing something wrong. And it's been the same since the fall. They don't need to change their urgency. They know how important this weekend is. And I think everyone knows, kind of like, they hear stuff. I mean, you don't think these players hear the fact that their coach is definitely on the hot seat and stuff? They probably hear it every day. Like, I see a comment on Gamecock Central at least once a day, if probably more, honestly, about Kingston and the job he's done this year. So I think everyone kind of understands, like, okay, like this team needs to get back on track. And a lot of people I know are going to count them out this weekend. And if they lose tonight's game, then everyone's thinking, yeah, just end of the year, all this and that. Like it is what it is. But I do think they have a chance to go out there and prove people wrong. The little bit of hope that I do have for this team is still there, and I do think that they can pull it off this weekend. Again, just a lot of things do have to go right for them, and I would be hard pressed to believe they're going to play the same way they did last week. I mean, like Martin said, this is the same team that run ruled top 5 Kentucky. We're talking about a potential #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. So there is still hope. But at the same time, you cannot go out and pitch the way you have. You can't fall behind. You can't give up 5 first-inning runs and expect to win. I mean, your offense can only do so much. I mean, we talked about how the offense didn't hit.
Yeah.
You can't expect the offense to get 10 runs a game. If you can get 5, 6 runs a game and your pitching does just enough to win the game, you have no excuse. But the fact that your pitching staff has given up, I mean, I think, what was it, 11 runs or 10 runs, 11 runs, and 14 runs. My math is probably not mathing on that. But anyway, I mean, look, Georgia scored double digits in every single game last weekend. And they always took the lead early, except for Saturday. Garrett Gainey shoved, and then the bullpen blew it. So giving up 10 runs in those final 2 innings is inexcusable. So basically, there's a lot of issues to fix, but I do think the headspace for this team is very good right now. I do think we're going to see them play a lot more relaxed and loose, and I'm interested to see what things look like when times get tough. Because obviously, it would not shock me tonight if Tennessee goes up like 3-0 right away, and then it's like, okay, how's this team going to respond? Are they going to get kicked down the dumps, or are they going to make a comeback? So we'll just have to see what happens. But again, these are very long-winded answers, and there's a lot going on with this game.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. And I loved all of your points there, and I had to dip out to sneeze real quick, so excuse me there. But yeah, no, I think all of your points were valid, and I liked the one most in particular, that this team listens. Out of all the teams that I've covered for South Carolina baseball that have really listened to the media or listened to what everyone is saying, not only the media but fans too, it's this one, right? And because like as soon as the hope stops, this team decides to pick it up and go. So I'm gonna do my job, Jack. Since you were positive, I'm gonna lean into it. I don't think this team is very good. I mean, right? Like we know that this team is good realistically. Like we know that the bats are elite. Again, like Martin's saying, like they beat the top 5. Like the series against Kentucky you looked like a complete baseball team. You didn't win that series because of the atmosphere at Founders Park was that much better. Which again, the Kentucky series, in my mind, was the best series of the year, quote unquote. I think Kentucky, or one of the better series of the year in terms of Founders Park, like turnout and atmosphere and all that. It was great that weekend for the most part. But again, I think the fact that this team still is optimistic, like EXO, the point that EXO makes is really good. And again, this team needs a little bit of doubt. I think as soon as they start to get complacent is when they get in trouble. So and it's the same mentality. I mean, you look at Moose, the way that he operates, right, and the way that a lot of the leaders on this team operate, they've just been doubted. Whenever they're doubted, they turn it on. So I think it really is just one of those things. It's the identity of this team. And after what you did last weekend, there are plenty of doubters out there, including myself being one of them, at least for this series against Tennessee. I think you can certainly take one game. It's within the realm of possibility. But I think also it's like, you just have to perform. You have to step up when the lights are brightest. And yeah, last weekend, it was not a great weekend for a sweep, but you know what? You can't do anything about it. It's in the past. That's the beauty of it, right? Is you can go up to Knoxville. You're playing with house money at this point, right? Because if you don't do something, at least, well, like if you get swept again this weekend, postseason, it may not be, like you got to do a lot in Hoover, or a decent amount in Hoover. I don't think you have to do a lot in Hoover, but you got to do something in Hoover if you go up to Knoxville and get swept this weekend. So you're controlling your own destiny. It's right. It's house money at this point. This is essentially postseason baseball, right? Without like if you just happen to get swept and don't have your best weekend, you still get to play more. But again, you should be approaching this like it is postseason baseball. So again, EXO chimes in and says it looked like we'd end up going to Wake Forest if we're traveling to a regional. Better avoid that. Yeah, Wake Forest is nasty. You don't want any piece of Chase Burns right now, bro.
No. Yeah, they just swept Clemson. I know that. And yeah, I mean, Wake. I mean, I've seen the latest projections, and then again, just keep in mind these are just projections, so they don't really mean a whole lot in the bigger picture. I mean, last weekend South Carolina was projected to be a 16 seed, and I think everyone thought that was crazy considering they were just a 10 seed 2 weeks ago. So now D1 baseball has them going to the Clemson regional as a number 2 seed in Clemson's bracket, which would be very interesting. Not just for facing Clemson, but going up against former Gamecock head coach Chad Holbrook in Charleston. And then I also saw Baseball America has South Carolina, I think, is a 3 seed out on the West Coast in the UC Santa Barbara regional, I believe. That'd be interesting. I wouldn't mind going to California. But, point is, I think South Carolina is probably going to be traveling for their regional. And maybe that's something they need. Maybe they need that underdog mentality. And I think the last thing anyone wants to see is this team get home field advantage and they squander it away and they get embarrassed on their home field. So I think it's better to go on the road, have that underdog mentality when everyone's counting them out, and maybe this is where we'll see South Carolina finally. I feel like we've had these moments all year where it looks like they put it together and they just everything just goes to what after, and we'll have to see what happens. But there is a part of me that thinks like they're gonna feed into that. Okay, everyone's counting us out. Our coach's job is, I guess, on the line, right? I mean, it's got to be. If it's not this weekend, when's it going to be? So I think we'll see what happens. But the point is, I did like the projection this week with South Carolina going to Clemson. I think that would really. I mean, if that doesn't get you hyped up for the postseason, I don't know what will. So.
Mike was still. I apologize for that. No, so okay, I think the Clemson regional would be ideal. I don't know if there's an ideal one, but as compared to a Wake Forest or say like a Tennessee or something like that. I mean, you got to go play Tennessee. We'll see what kind of gauntlet that this is going to be, because again, but again, I think Clemson is a better regional than Tennessee or Wake Forest, because Wake Forest is just so dangerous right now, and you just don't know what your team is made out of. Now, I think this weekend will tell us like if it will be a good barometer or how far this team will go, if anywhere, right? Because if they come out this weekend and have a big weekend against a good team like Tennessee, I mean, the sky's the limit, and they've just been toying with their heads, and it's just been inconsistent this whole time, right? So I think if again you need a big weekend, but if you can escape it with, I mean, a series win would be huge, but then a sweep, I mean, the only thing this team is guilty of is inconsistency, like I said. So I think this weekend will be a big barometer for me, at least in terms of where I project this team to end up going, how I project them to end up finishing. But it'll be interesting to see for sure. Jack, before we hit our series predictions and dive a little bit deeper into the Vols, would you like to hit some ads real quick?
Yes, sir. You want to get us started?
Absolutely. Tax IDs are good friends over at Liberty Tax. Our first stop, tax IDs are an uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. The tax team at Liberty Tax in Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, and guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for a refund, call on the tax team at Liberty Tax. They're fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to a Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood, open 9 to 9 on weekdays and 9 to 5 on Saturdays with multiple service options. Start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through their desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in. Give a call to upload your tax documents, and when you come in, your return will be ready to view and sign. Give them a call on your screen right now. And for those listening, 803-462-5576. Once again, on your screen right now. And for those listening, 803-462-5576 for all of your tax needs this tax season.
And our next sponsor is Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. In need of help with your mortgage, call our good friend Clint Hammond at the Movement Mortgage Network. He's been in the mortgage industry since 2003, which allows him to help everyone from the first-time home buyer to the complicated and complex jumbo buyer. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance, nothing is more important than a well-thought-out financial strategy that comes with 5-star customer service. He's even helped out our very own Wes Mitchell and former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth with their mortgages. So you can give our guy Clint, a call at the number above, 803-422-6797. Again, the number to call Clint Hammond is 803-422-6797.
Yep, absolutely. That's our guy Clint Hammond of the Movement Mortgage Network. Again, check him out for all of your mortgage needs. Jack, again, you're in Knoxville this weekend. I'm jealous because there's a big baseball series ahead. But what have you got? I mean, obviously we'll break down the series and get the whole predictions rolling here by the end of the show. But yeah, this Tennessee baseball team's pretty darn good from my research.
Yeah, they're kind of loaded, I guess, and I don't know if it's the best thing to be in Knoxville. We'll see. If they win the series, then it's like, okay, cool. But
it's a big baseball series for sure.
It's huge. So Tennessee is 43-10 on the year, 19-8 in SEC play. They're playing for a potential SEC regular season title this weekend, which I believe, if the stats right, would be their second in 3 years. So, it's the Baseballs. They're a good team. They're 32-3 at home, and that makes it awfully tough for South Carolina, who has been a little up and down on the road this season. But it's gonna be a tough weekend. I mean, they got a pretty solid pitching staff, like I said before. Team ERA is 3.8. And that is very, very good. I mean, this is a very dangerous team. And luckily, you don't have to face like a Chase Burns or anything this weekend. I mean, he transferred to Wake, but I mean, look, this Tennessee pitching is very good. They've got a lot of good guys. High strikeouts, low walks. I don't expect South Carolina to walk a ton this weekend, but when they do get their opportunities, that's when they really have to strike it. Once they get men on base, they've got to do their jobs, and then after that, they have a dangerous lineup too. I mean, like I said before, they got 5 guys with an OPS north of 1,000, and that's crazy. Obviously they got Christian Moore, who is their leading hitter. I mean, you want to talk about anyone that's really good this season, that's probably getting a little overlooked in the whole Jack Caglione, Charlie Condon picture. Another solid SEC player is Christian Moore, who's hitting 377 on the year, with a 1.221 OPS, 24 dingers, 57 ribbies, 778 slugging. He's got 80 hits this season. So he's a monster. You also have a guy like Billy Amick, who comes from Clemson originally, and I think Gamecock fans will know his name. He's hitting 347, 18 homers, 48 RBIs. And look, those 5 guys, you got Moore, Burke, Amick, Tears, and Dreeling. All those guys have an OPS above 1,000, and they're all in striking distance of 20 homers this season. So this is a dangerous lineup. I mean, it's easy to say, well, South Carolina's got to get those guys out. Well, I don't expect them to. If it's anything like last weekend, some of these guys might be pushing 20 homers and might get over that clip. But we'll have to see what happens. I think it's a very similar approach to Georgia. So many things went wrong last weekend, except Garrett Gainey figured out a way to get those guys out. So I think I said it this morning on 107.5 The Game. If you're going back and watching that tape, if you're the players, you better find a way to learn from your mistakes and pitch to a lineup that is eerily similar, maybe even better than Georgia's. I mean, the fact is the Bulldogs just crushed anything the Gamecocks threw last weekend. Even Garrett Gainey got roughed up a little bit. He gave up 2 homers, I believe. So you just have to be careful with this lineup. And it's easy to say, we'll just intentionally walk Christian Moore. But then you have guys like Burke and Billy Amick. I mean, it's not easy. So we'll have to see what happens. But this is a very good, well-rounded team. And I don't know. It's tough to imagine they're gonna South Carolina can win this series. But again, with Martin's comment here, Ty Good can set the tone tonight with a great outing. That's true. I'm curious to see how he does in the starting role. Just for whatever reason, it seems like he struggles a little bit when he's pitching first rather than coming out of the bullpen. I think that's why we've seen him, pitch in the second inning or whatever after Roman Kimball struggles. But we're going to see. Kingston has confidence in him, and I do expect a tighter leash on some of the guys this weekend if they do struggle. But we'll have to see what happens. If your pitching is anything like last week, have fun. Have fun listening to Rocky Top Tom this weekend. I might have to bring some earmuffs or something.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Vitello, his ball club is really, really, really good. Tony Vitello's been on some Tony Vitello stuff again. Like, I don't know what he's putting in the Gatorade or the water, but Tennessee's good again, and he's at the helm. It probably hurts Clemson fans to see their boy Billy Amick on the number 1 ranked team, and Clemson's having all the success that they're having right now. Imagine how good they'd be if they had Amick. But again, I think this lineup's loaded. I don't know. I don't really know where to start. I don't even know if I want to dive into it too crazy because again, like it's loaded. It's loaded. And it's big and it's scary. And it's going to be a big challenge for the South Carolina pitching staff if they don't figure something out. Because if you play like you did last weekend, you were going to get shelled. You're going to get sent home, or like you're going to get sent home with a couple run rules, and you're going to have a lot to figuring out, to figure out when you get back to Columbia. It's going to be back to the drawing board before some of the most important baseball you'll play all year. So you need to find a way to win tonight. I think Ty Good on the bump for game 1, certainly, leads to some good things sometimes. And again, I think out of anybody, Ty Good has made the most leaps and bounds in terms of development this season, right? Obviously, Garrett Gainey's come along. But if you look at just from start to finish, and I mean, he was by no means a completed project when he got here from College of Charleston. But again, when he did, he's made leaps and bounds throughout the year to find himself in this spot starting this game tonight. And, he needs to be good. He needs to give you a couple innings, let the offense breathe a little bit, let the offense get settled. And usually, I mean, Jack, we've been talking about it all show. The offense will do their job. Again, you just got to hold on to it on the back half. You got to stay consistent, only allowing, 1 or 2 run spurts. I mean, because a team like Tennessee they're going to get their runs. It's just a matter of stopping the bleeding, putting some darn gauze to it, right? Yes. To the cut and stopping the bleeding, because that's where Georgia killed you, right? Because you'd allow 1 run, you'd have another high pressure situation with guys in scoring position. And then it would just keep going. There'd be a hit, and then, that guy would get on base, and then, a couple load ups and stuff and whatever. And so, again, yeah, long story short, Jack, yeah, it just continues to go. When this bullpen just, allows a run. And so the gauze, right? That's if I had to boil this series down to anything, it's the theoretical gauze coming out of the bullpen, right? You want to stop the bleeding before it gets too bad, because the South Carolina offense, they'll take care of the job for you. You just, again, you can't let Tennessee just jump all over you like that. So that's my biggest thing. Jack, you got to pick. We always boil it down. We always put ourselves under the microscope a little bit here and force ourselves to do these darn picks. But give me something.
Oh, oh man. I'm thinking, man, this is gonna sound crazy. It's gonna sound crazy, and I don't think it's gonna happen. But let's just think about this. Let's think about this hypothetically tonight. Ty Good starts on the mound, gives you a decent outing, gives up 2 runs. That's enough to work with. He does that over 4.5, 5 innings. That is good enough. You turn the ball over to Chris Veach. He does his job. Boom. Garrett Gainey, 2 innings. Boom. That should be enough to win the game. I expect South Carolina to win tonight if all that happens and your offense does the job. I think South Carolina is going to win game 1. Now, I don't know what they're doing the rest of the weekend. I think Eli Jones, I refuse to believe that he's going to continue to pitch this bad. I refuse to believe this team plays as bad as they did last weekend.
Yeah.
And with everything that's kind of riding this weekend for them, like this is like it's kind of like a make or break type of deal, in my opinion. Like, I don't care what happens the rest of the year. If you get swept this weekend, I think the fate of what's going to happen in the summer is all but certain. I expect Eli Jones to have a better outing. I think whatever they were working on, they're not just making it up. They found something. Whether it's him tipping pitches or his control being an issue. There's a lot of things going on. If they can figure it out and he gives you the quality outings that we know he's capable of doing. He's pitched pretty lately he's been awful, but there have been spurts where he's been very good this year. So I expect him to have a better outing, and I think it's going to lead to Like, I'm crazy saying this. I think they're going to win 2 or 3 this weekend. I know that's crazy. I know that's
Yeah,
crazy. But
it is crazy.
crazier things have happened. And this is South Carolina we're talking about. Like, this is the same team that ruled Kentucky, kept it very competitive with Arkansas.
Is it the
And
same team though?
I don't
Like,
know. Like that, and look, if I don't know, if I were a fan of this team, I'd probably be thinking they're getting swept. But
yeah,
from what I'm seeing, like for my own sanity, I refuse to believe. I
yeah,
refuse to believe it can get worse than last weekend. And if it does, man, I'll come on here. I'll come on here next week and admit that I was wrong. But
yeah.
like for some reason, I just think it's going to happen. I think they're going to put it together. They're going to have a decent weekend, and they're going to get the job done. Take 2 or 3. So how it happens, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a disaster how they put it together. It's not going to be clean. It's going to be barely getting to the finish line with a screwed up car that just got flipped over, and you got
All
god,
right.
I don't know, man. But let's hear what you have to say.
I'll take that. No, I like that because again, it's the. I mean, it's you got to win the race. Like if you win the race, you're still in first. It doesn't matter what the car looks like. I mean, shout out to Tyler Head and our boys over at 1075 The Game. They love some NASCAR, and I'm sure they're enjoying that analogy somewhere because it's true. Like you can win the car with a wrecked up race car. It doesn't matter what your car looks like as long as you're in first. So I like that, and I do. But again, Jack, and I'm going to say something really like I think this team is going to get swept. I have zero, like, I'm at the point where, and again, maybe am I playing into it a little bit? Because again, as soon as you get your hopes up, the team lets you down. Yes, a little bit. Like I had big high hopes for last weekend, and it was just not good. So you're on the road. Tony Vitello's Tennessee. Again, they're back. Tony's, he's feeling himself. He's arguing with umpires again. He's, the king in the castle kind of thing and whatever. And that's scary when Tennessee is like that because they don't really stop or mess around with anybody. So I think South Carolina is just another bump in the road. But again, I think it's more than possible that your situation happens too, Jack. But Tennessee's home record is ridiculous. They don't lose at home. Is another thing. So I don't know. We'll see. I think, but if any team would go in there and disrupt it, it would be a South Carolina team that's playing with house money. So I'm not putting it past this team to go over there, win 2 games, 2 out of 3. Like I think it's certainly within the realm of possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think they're going to get swept, unfortunately. And back-to-back sweeps, and that'll put a light of fire under your butt, like real quick, like. And so maybe it's what they need. Maybe they need to get swept back. But again, I'm just putting it out there. The ether, my pick, my gut. I'm taking my gut here at this point. I think they're going to get swept. I hope they get 1 win. I hope they get 2. Right? I think that would be awesome. I think it would be great for the morale of this team, the morale of this fan base too going forward. But we'll see. And I hate to say that I think they'll get swept, but I don't know, man, Jack. I really want to be and same thing with you, like right. Except I want to be wrong when we're sitting here next week talking about this. I would love to be wrong. Please go out there and prove me wrong. But as of right now, with the whole body of work, I think they're gonna get swept. Moose, don't kill me. Sheesh.
Here's a good analogy. And look, I know these are different sports, but it's South Carolina athletics. This is who they are.
Yeah.
When you least expect it, South Carolina does crazy things. Did anyone expect South Carolina to? Let's go back to 2 years ago. You were there. You're in Gainesville. South Carolina football gets murdered, 38-6. Right? Did anyone expect South Carolina to go up and put up 63 points the next week against Tennessee? No one thought that. Going with this men's basketball season, did anyone think that after a crazy win against Kentucky, 20-point win, did anyone think that South Carolina was going to go into Knoxville and pull off a stunner against Dalton Connect and a great Tennessee team? No. So my point is, look, different sports, different scenarios, all that sort of stuff.
True.
It's the same thing, man. South Carolina does South Carolina things. They how do I even explain it? It's like they just
Spoiler makers, bro.
When everyone counts them out, they just pull things out. It's like they pull stuff out of a magic hat, dude. It's crazy. It's voodoo dolls. It's nuts. And it's not just baseball. It's literally every single sport. So my point is, like, yeah, I mean, look, times are tough right now. Kingston's seat is definitely a little hot. And if they get swept this weekend, I don't
That'll
even
be
want
our
to.
whole show on Thursday.
Yeah, like
If they get swept this weekend, because we didn't talk about Kingston getting fired as much, and there were a bunch of people on my show, and we talked about it on Sunday, but I didn't want that to run the whole show because I don't think we're there quite yet. But if something happens this weekend, absolutely, we will have that conversation 100%.
Yeah, and I just think like that's a conversation for another day. Like
Yeah,
we still
absolutely.
we still have season left to go, and I disagree with the people that want this season and team to burn down at the hands of losing Kingston. Like it's not over yet, guys.
No.
Like there's still time left in the air, and yeah, you call me an optimistic person or whatever the case might be. I try to look at things
shades before you're being so optimistic.
We haven't had optimism shades in a little bit, but like, come on, man. Like this team, like I don't know, man. Just something tells me it's gonna click. They're gonna surprise people, just like they have in every other sport. Like I don't know. That's all I got on that.
We will have to see. But anyways, that will do it for this week's edition of Fowl Balls. Appreciate everyone tuning in this Thursday afternoon. Jack is in Knoxville. Be sure to check out all of his content. Obviously, starting tonight, South Carolina baseball. What time is first pitch tonight, Jack?
6:30 tonight, 6:30 tomorrow, and then I believe 1:00 on Saturday. So should be a hopefully good weekend.
Yeah,
I want to come back to this hotel after this entire weekend thinking that I was right, but we're gonna see what happens. It wouldn't shock me if they get swept, but
that would be nice, man. Yeah, be sure to stay tuned with all of Jack's baseball coverage. Obviously, his Twitter's below his name, Jack T. Veltri, doing a great job for us up there in Knoxville. Covering the Gamecocks baseball run, and obviously we got everything you need in video form here on Foul Balls. So appreciate everyone tuning in. If you missed any of our show, you can go back, check it out on the Gamecock Central YouTube page. Just go to the live section. And also, if you missed our show, when you subscribe to the Gamecock Central YouTube page, hit the little bell icon next to it, and then you'll be notified for all of our live shows. Like, subscribe, comment, do all the fun stuff that we love you guys for. So appreciate everyone tuning in again today, and we will see you again next week.